Hi everyone, this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman. And I know we have so much to talk now about because we have so many planets in retrograde right now. It is unbelievable. I've never, as far as I've been watching astrology and kind of trying to understand it, I've never seen this many planets in retrograde. And I know everybody's going to be jumping on in just a second. So, um, this is kind of like a crazy month because we kind of end September tomorrow. And then on Saturday, we open up into October and we have all these planets in retrograde. We have all this energy kind of flying about. And if that isn't enough, at the end of October, we have eclipse coming, and then we've got one on November 8th. So it's going to get even crazier. I know, it's like, oh my gosh, crazy, crazy, crazy. If you are joining me, let me know where you're joining me from. Stop and say hi. So as we get started, one of the things, hi, Miss Sandra. One of the things I think is really, really interesting is, and I was reading this earlier, and I was asked this a couple of weeks ago by a client, kind of just trying to understand. Hey, Miss Gracetta, kind of like, why do we never hear about like the sun or the moon going into retrograde? And I was like, that is like a really great question. So I kind of had to look. I know it doesn't. I just don't know why it doesn't. And one of the things is really the sun and the moon are luminaries, and they're not planets. Only planets and huge asteroids really kind of get credit for going into retrograde. So that's kind of the interesting part of it. But it's kind of in a great way for us, because one of the things that happens is if like the sun represents our ego and ourselves, and if that went into retrograde, we might have some like major issues kind of coming in that area. The moon represents our emotions. It's always talking about like how we're going to emotionally connect to other people and disconnect from other people. And if they went into retrograde, that just sounds way crazy. But they're both luminaries, they're not planets, and that's why they don't go into retrograde. Now, the other one crazy is Earth never goes into retrograde, because retrograde is only what we see from Earth. And if we're looking from Earth, it never looks like Earth kind of backs up in that area. So that's kind of like one of those, interesting. So we are going to be looking at several of the planets, kind of going through there, and then I'll pull some angel cards for each of them. If you have questions, please post them. I will do my very, very, very best. We have a lot to cover in all of these planets. I know it's kind of crazy in that area. We've got lots of planets to cover. I'm going to do my best to kind of work through all of this. So let's first talk about Mercury in retrograde. I think Mercury is the one that really gets slammed the most for going into retrograde. And I think it's because it's so close to it that it really affects a lot of people. The closer the planet is to Earth, the more it's going to affect the individuals. The further away the planet is, like Pluto and Saturn and all of those way, 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 way out there, they affect people some, but I will tell you, more than anything else, they really, really, really affect bigger entities, like big cities, counties, states, governments, not just the U.S., all governments all over the place. Canada, England, Germany, France, all of those get affected by the outer planets even more than we do. And I know that's kind of an interesting thing. Let's talk about it. So Mercury went into pre-shadow, or we're not going to do that. So Mercury is going to be in retrograde until October 2nd. And then from that point, it will be in post-shadow energy, so kind of lightening up as it starts to move forward again. It is actually in two signs. So it started out in Virgo, and then it backed up, kind of like as it was doing, it was kind of slowing down, but it still hit Libra. And then as it gets out of retrograde, it will hit Virgo and then Libra again. And kind of one of the interesting parts, when it is in the sign of Virgo, that's when we're going to have more issues. Hey, Miss Gigi. So kind of I think it went back into Virgo on September 25th. So people are having more computer issues. I know I am. I am having computer issues. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Cell phone issues, not getting emails, all kinds of crazy stuff around here. But that's kind of what Mercury does. And it kind of has brought kind of like a different energy to us, because normally, hey, Miss Rebecca, we are kind of always talking about like, having computer issues or that sort of thing. But for us, it's kind of been neat to have the cell phones off or not relying on them to beep, bop, or boop every time something comes in. And so when it does, we are actually kind of taking a step that way and looking at it. But a lot of times it's been kind of nice to have them off or not really listening to them near as much. But with Mercury in the sign of Virgo, it is really going to bring up people's anxiety. Kind of racing thoughts, kind of pushing ourselves past where we need to be, kind of really kind of bringing it in on ourselves. And I think that's kind of that Virgo energy of like they're super detail oriented and it's going to bring it to everybody else. Kind of like that energy of just kind of like taking things to heart, being detail oriented, being very, very productive. And if you're not productive, you feel like you're just something on the side of the road. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm just so lazy that I'm not 100% motivated all the time. That's that Virgo energy. And that can be a bit harsh on people, especially if you're not used to it. Hi, McNabb. How are you doing? And I will tell you that this is kind of like a great time to take some time out of your schedule. If there's someone around you, make sure that you are really kind of lightening up that energy and letting them know, like, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a great job. Kind of opening up into new ideas and new perspectives can be one that can really take over this energy really easy and not make it so harsh as we move into some of these other retrogrades. Next, we're going to be going to Jupiter in retrograde. And I have tons of sheets because there's so much information on all of these. So right now, Jupiter is in full retrograde. It will leave retrograde November 23rd. And go into post-shadow energy until February 14th, 2023. I know. Jupiter is really our planet of good luck, good energy, expansion of things. And a lot of times it's going to be really expanding a lot of abundant energy, that sort of thing. Right now, it's kind of like squishing it tighter. And then as soon as it's out of retrograde, it'll be like, woof, big again. So this is kind of a really interesting planet. Like I said, it's further out, so it doesn't always affect each person individually. You can connect to Jupiter's energy if you try to. Jupiter in the sign of Pisces is kind of really kind of setting limits to people, kind of like, you can't go past here, you can't do this, you can't go there. And sometimes people are like, wow, this is really like condensing me down, or I feel like I can't move into this energy, or I can't open up a business in this area. And I was like, it will change very quickly. Like I said, especially starting to lighten after November 23rd, but it is going to still be making some big moves forward. And one of the things I think is interesting is to also kind of really strengthen our belief system. Like, what are the things that you really truly believe, or what are the good things that you really want to push forward or take your energy to the next level, can be an amazing one as well. This can be a great time for people to kind of find our, our deeper philosophies, kind of like, what is your statement for you? I know many years ago, that was like the big buzzword for everybody. What is your personal statements? And sometimes that's a great one to kind of like, what is your mantra that you're going to be really talking about during this time frame with Jupiter's energy in play? What do you want to amplify for you? What do you want to bring forward for you in this energy? So that can be a really cool one for us. Next, if y'all have any questions, please ask. I know it sounds really crazy, but there's tons of information on each of these. So I'm kind of just hitting some of the highlights. When I tried to do a video on this earlier, I was going to like 45 minutes. So I don't want to spend all of your time. But if you have questions about any of this, please connect with me. Saturn right now is in full retrograde and will turn direct on October 22nd, and will leave until January 26th, when it leaves full retrograde, or leaves post shadow energy. Saturn is the planet of structure, and this is all kinds of structure and discipline. So this could be the rules of our city, our state. During this time frame, we had Roe versus Wade kind of come back, and changing modifications to that. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is like the things that we've kind of considered a standard are going to be changing and modifying. Other structures have been changing and modifying. I've heard of a couple of bridges falling down. A lot of streets with like potholes and stuff like that. I've seen like that lately. A lot of talk about on the internet, like, oh my gosh, this street has so many potholes, or this happened, or whatever else, and stopping the flow of traffic, because Saturn is all about the structure and what we consider the structure for us. One of the things, because Saturn is in retrograde in the sign of Aquarius right now, this is going to be bringing up a lot of energy for most people, kind of urging us to kind of like make some huge karmic choices that will be affecting our lives for many, many years. So this is a really good time of like, what are you doing with the old karma that you know what I'm saying? Like, even if you were mean to someone or whatever else, are you making amends to that? Or are you sending them positive energy to kind of balance that out? What are you doing to kind of balance your karmic choices that you've made in the past, so that you can make better choices in the future coming in? I will tell you that kind of navigating some of Saturn's energy is really going to affect us, like I said, for years to come. So this is a great time to kind of make changes. This is a great time to make changes with your investments and your energy, not necessarily investments in your money, but kind of like, where are you investing your energy? Where are you putting all of that positive energy into? And kind of one of the interesting ones, relationships often really thrive during Saturn in retrograde, and can really amp us up. This can be a great one to kind of like changing how we work, kind of like take a our career may take a back seat to kind of like some of our friendships for a little bit. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think for a lot of people, and I've seen this with a lot of clients as well, that they have been kind of not really taking care of themselves, or kind of taking care of the relationships really, really close to them. They're kind of pushing that more out to other people. But I have, I think, 16 clients going through a divorce right now. A lot of people have not been focusing on their marriage. And so because of that, it's kind of like gone. Those marriages are just dissolved because they weren't putting the right energy, or some of them have been in with really, really negative energy for a long time. And that one person is like, I'm over this. I am so over this energy. Next, let's talk about Uranus in retrograde. Uranus is currently in retrograde and will continue to be in retrograde until January 22nd, 2023, and then will be in post-shadow energy until May 9th. And Uranus is kind of our hippy-dippy, kind of like, let's change everything. Let's just go after it. Let's change all of this stuff going on. Uranus also governs society, our collective consciousness, which really kind of now navigates, hi Natalie, a lot of culture, like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that sort of thing. And so it's kind of really bringing in this new energy. Yearly, Uranus goes into retrograde for quite a long time, and he's kind of far out there. So he really does deal with a lot of bigger entities, like we were talking about earlier, like states, governments, that sort of thing. But it also really affects technology, and it's affecting technology where Mercury kind of affects people's technology. Uranus really affects the technology of states, like your whole internet may go down, or a government's website may be broken into, or records are taken or stolen, or whatever it is. So that's kind of one of those like, interesting. But it really takes a great energy for Uranus, because Uranus has so much kind of like crazy energy around it, and things that normally kind of like take a long time to do are popping really fast. Like it's like, oh, well, let's just change this. And that's part of that rebellion energy from Uranus. And this can take a little bit more time to kind of think things through, but like it changes really quickly. And then you're kind of like, wait, did I make the right decision in all of this? Should I have done something differently? Or am I doing the right thing? So I've had a lot of people ask me that, like, am I on the right path? Am I where I'm supposed to be? There are some energies. I will post this once this is all posted out to everyone. I will put some links to the long versions of all of these videos, so you can kind of pick up if there's one that you're like, wow, I really want to find out more. That is the best way to do it. One of the things that Uranus in retrograde it kind of pushes for a lot of people is a lot of like extremisms. People kind of it's kind of like cut their nose to spite their face kind of thing. So you'll see a lot of people like, I don't want to be your friends with you ever. And then you kind of like regret it later on. You're like, maybe I overreacted a little bit. That's Uranus as energy. A lot of people kind of go crazy when Uranus is in retrograde, because it's like they'll just say something and they're like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. And then like 5 minutes later, they're like, can you be my friend again? And you're like, wait, I thought this was over. I've also seen this when dealing with marriages as well. So that's kind of one of those, interesting. Check yourself before you kind of like say those statements, or kind of like take a breath, because that can be the best way to kind of like, is this really what I want to say? Is this really how I want this to come across? And that is just the best way to deal with Uranus in retrograde. It's kind of the best way to deal with him. He's a little crazy on the outside, but very nice. I like my retrogrades with my Uranus energy. Next, we're going to go to Neptune. This is one, it's not too far out there. It's not too close. This is the one that really messes with your dreams. If you've been having some really bizarre dreams lately, Neptune's your fellow. So Neptune is in full retrograde right now, and will go into post-shadow energy on December 3rd and leave post-shadow energy on March 24th. Neptune is the planet of illusions and delusions, and kind of really will also mess with your emotions and kind of your psychic perceptions or development. Sometimes you're like, wow, I really thought this is the great energy to kind of move forward in, or I saw a sign about this, and then you kind of realize like, wait, was that a delusion? Was I not correct on that assumption of what I should do? And Neptune is in retrograde in the sign of Pisces. And so kind of Pisces adds that flow to everything. Those fishies bring in that flow, and which will really be affecting our intuition, kind of like that gut instinct. Am I going right? Am I not? I've heard that question so many times with clients. Like, I'm not really sure. This is kind of a Neptune energy to deal with this. And one of the things I think is really interesting, Neptune makes a lot of conjunctions and squares while it's in retrograde. Like, that's why it's like best to kind of like listen to the whole reading that I did, because these dates are still accountable. They're still going to happen. And it's really going to be pushing a lot of energy in this area and kind of making us more critical. It can also make us more emotional, kind of like flip us out a little bit more. And I think that's kind of one of the interesting energies with Neptune in retrograde kind of energy. A lot of times I get a lot of inspiration if I kind of daydream a little bit. So you may be going through that as well, kind of like having that inspirational, like, well, I think I should do this, or I should change things. Make sure you kind of think it through before you put it into the works. I will be doing a dream interpretation in October sometime, before October, November timeframe, before Neptune gets out of retrograde. That is going to be a really fun one. I always love doing things like that with you guys. Don't like them, right? Yeah? Okay. Now you could tell me, because I'm right here, and you can tell me whatever you want. Okay, so let's go into Pluto in retrograde. And Pluto right now is in full retrograde. It will leave full retrograde on October 8th, and will leave post shadow energy on January 29th. It is in retrograde in the sign of Capricorn. And for a lot of people, this is going to bring up a lot of like old wounds. You're going to see old things coming up, kind of almost like here it is, which is kind of funny for me because it's like we're almost in the month of October, so we've got a lot of ghosts, and so we've had a lot of that kind of like old wounds coming up, almost like ghosts from the past. Here it comes. A lot of old emotions coming up as well, and I will say kind of literally emotions that have felt kind of for a long time like they're not there, or I'm not able to connect to them. You're going to see a lot of people kind of changing how they deal with things. This one is really good about doing a lot of healing to move us forward. And if you're not working on things that from your past, you should be. This is really a great energy for Pluto to help us with. I guarantee you this planet is one that a lot of people are looking at, how it's going to come out of retrograde. Like I said, full retrograde ends on October 8th, and then it's in post shadow until whatever it was, January. So we also are dealing with the Pluto return for the United States, and how does that affect all of this energy coming out? Because when a planet is in retrograde and it's making a square or a trine with something else, it's kind of like it's not as strong as it normally is. Now, when it's in post shadow energy or in out of full retrograde, it's going to change, and it's going to be pushing a lot more energy. Pluto is really the planet of things that we want to die. Like I said, like old wounds, things, old feelings that we don't want to come up anymore. And it can bring up healing as well. But if you're not willing to work through it, it kind of brings it up. And it's kind of like all of those skeletons out of the closet. Like, I don't want anybody to see a picture of me like that. Or I don't want anybody to know that I went through this. This is when it's going to come up. And like I said, because Pluto's so far out there, you're going to see this with governments, stuff that they put into office or signed in while they were in office or whatever else, like coming back up and like getting different reviews or different energy shoved at it. So that is kind of one of those, how is this going to affect everybody? Our next one is Mars in retrograde. Now, Mars isn't completely in retrograde right now. Mars is kind of in pre-shadow energy. It will go into full retrograde on October 30th. And Mars, of course, is our planet of war, action, aggression, moving things, constantly moving forward. And it also has like a very protective and very combative side to it. So a lot of people consider this almost like our warrior planet. Now it is going to go into retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So you're talking like completely opposite energies. So Mars, war, aggression, moving forward, all of this energy. Now it's going into retrograde in the sign of Gemini. And Gemini is all about communication. So it's kind of like our planet of war is going into retrograde in communication. So you are going to see after October 30th, you're going to see a lot of people having war of words. You're going to see it on a personal level because Mars isn't that far out. You're going to see it on a global scale because it's kind of like right in that. It's like not really super close to it, but it's not really far away. So you're going to see this globally, but you're going to also see it in families. You're going to see it kind of people turn on each other in a very interesting way. This is a very interesting energy to go into retrograde. And the weird part is that Mars is going to be in retrograde. Normally Mars is not in retrograde or in one sign for very long, but the way it started in August, in Gemini, and then it went into retrograde, and it's going to stay in that sign the whole time. And then when it comes out of retrograde, completely out of retrograde, March 15th, it's still going to be in the sign of Gemini for about another 10 days. So this is going to be bringing some crazy energy. And like I said, you are going to be seeing a lot of people pushing this energy, pushing this agenda of my words are stronger. You're going to see people really pushing that energy of this is where we need to go with this, and this is what we need to do with this. You're going to see kind of those war of words coming out probably more than we have in the past for a long time. I will say that this is kind of a lot of energy and a lot of predictions. I also did a video on Mars in retrograde, kind of an interesting one of kind of like how long it's going to be in the sign. And like I said, you were going to see a lot of conflict with this sign, a lot of people not happy with this, and kind of like I said, that war of the words. So let's pull some angel cards. I will tell you kind of what planet it's talking about. And it doesn't mean that these planets are always necessarily, they're always in your chart at some degree. Some of them just affect us way more than others. So a lot of times people tell me I'm not really affected by Mercury in retrograde that much. And I'm like, I understand. Other people, it affects them a lot. And the same thing with all of the other planets. It kind of just takes a little bit of time. So my first card is balance. This is a great time to balance your energy. And what I get with this is kind of that Saturn energy with your karma. This is a great time to balance your karmic energy with things. Kind of balancing that energy can be very healthy, very fun, and very easy to do when Saturn is in retrograde. And you kind of get a boost from Saturn as well. My next card is Archangel Michael, and this is all about Mars energy. You are going to feel like you may have to protect your words or protect what you've said in the past. Like I said, with Mars in this retrograde in the sign of Gemini is going to bring up a lot of communication issues, a lot of things that you thought like, hey, I've already dealt with this. And someone else goes, no, you haven't. We're going to talk about it again. Yep. This is going to bring up some new love. Like I said, this is bringing up a lot of Jupiter energy of kind of bringing in some new love prospects for people, especially if you've been looking for love. So make sure that you're on the lookout for all of those amazing energies. This one, although I had another one already picked, this one is coming up next. Freedom. This is our Uranus energy. This is almost my Uranus card. I know when I pull this up, it's talking about Uranus. And this is really going to be talking about our freedom. And we have the freedom to change, even with all these planets in retrograde. What are you going to choose to change? How are you going to change this energy around you? And make some changes, but make sure you think about them a little bit before you go. Forgiveness. I get this a lot with Mars in retrograde. This is going to be changing a lot of energy, and there may be some old things that you need to bring up and kind of forgive yourself and let it go, or forgive somebody else. Doesn't mean, listen to my words, I didn't mean you had to like forget all of it forever. What I mean is sometimes you have to forgive someone to let it go so it can come back to you healed. Because a lot of times if we're like, they never said they were sorry, or they never did this, we have to forgive and let that part go. We may never trust them again, but it's still that energy of let's keep talking about this or keep them in the loop a little bit, not to where they were. Music. I love music during any time of the year, but when there's a lot of planets in retrograde, one of the things I love to do is play some music because it really does calm our energy. It calms what we're supposed to be doing and can really help us stay focused as well. My next card is all about nature. One of the things that's really not going to fight you in any of this is nature. Well, I guess unless you're in Florida, dealing with the hurricane that just hit as it goes up the eastern seaboard. Nature's usually on our side. This comes in with a lot of love, a lot of energy, grounding in some tree energy could be really healing for people during this time frame, especially kind of like the next couple of days as all of these planets are in retrograde. And I think we even have 2 asteroids in retrograde as well. So know that that's coming up. Friendships, there's changing to friendship, and this is the time to really be opening up to that energy of friendships. Like I said, allowing that energy to come in and make some changes and some upgrades. Maybe there's some things that you need to tell your friends that you've been kind of like, oh, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to do anything. Enchantment, looking at all of this with enchantment, kind of like it's for your benefit that all of these planets are in retrograde. I love that. Thank you, Sandra. I do too. I love music. That's one of my kind of like one of my things I love to do. I love playing. I think on my TV it's called like Zen music or something like that, or spa music or something. I love listening to that because it really does calm me down and relax me. And I think it's really interesting. I also, I know I'm not a professional player. I'm not good at music necessarily, but I have a healing bowl, a singing bowl that I play with. And I've done many, many meditations with that. And Sandra, I'm going to be talking to you about those meditations soon. But I will tell you that there is beautiful energy in that when you make the music yourself and kind of bring that healing up for yourself and the people around you. Because when you heal you, you are healing your family, your children, your parents, all of that energy. You're kind of, without really knowing it or really doing anything, you are healing so many other people. And that's a great energy to know that you are healing people. I think that's one of the favorite things I love about music, and it can change your energy in a snap of the fingers. If you hear your favorite song, whatever your favorite song is, literally you go from like sad to happy in literally just a moment's notice of like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I love that energy. I understand that, Sandra. If you want me to, when you come into town, I will get you one if I can run over to the store really quick. I love to do it. I love to play my singing bowl because it really does resonate with me. And once you kind of learn how to play it, it really can, like I said, really bring in some amazing stuff. It does take some time to kind of learn how to do the singing bowl and do a meditation at the same time. You can do it, but it takes a little bit of kind of finessing there. I love doing it when I do my celestial meditations for my advanced people that do celestial meditations. And I do it a lot on my meditations that I put out. And I have a couple of new meditations coming out. So if you haven't connected with those, please do so. And if you haven't, on the side, I have connect with me through my client contact form. My assistant will be putting those in tonight and tomorrow. We are going to be emailing out my October newsletter, October 1st. And it is going to be an amazing one because we're talking about all of these planets. We're talking about energy that are coming in. And then the kicker for all of this, we have 7 planets in retrograde right now. But we also, at the end of October, have 2 eclipses. And so that is going to be bringing in some chaotic energy and some different energy. And I'll be doing another Thursday Night Live on that as it gets closer and kind of bringing that energy to you to understand this a little bit better. But I always tell people, my newsletter people kind of know everything first. They get access to so many of the videos that haven't even launched yet. A lot of times, like, they love it. And then I know I've got to launch that out for everybody else. So I love doing that sort of thing. If you ever have a Dear Ruth Theresa question, one of my series that I do where you can email me or text me a question and I will do a video on that. That's kind of fun. I sent one to Sandra a couple of days ago. I can't think of the question you were asking me. I was like, psychic downloads. So I did a whole video on psychic downloads. So if you have a psychic question of kind of like, what does this mean? Or where do I go with this? I will do a video for you. I thank you so much, guys, for joining me tonight. And I know that we'll be talking again soon. Good night, everybody.